I'll go to school tomorrow.
Oh,
You
no.
have to.
Can you hear?
In progress.
Shut yours off.
There.
Can you hear us, David?
Yes, I can. Wow, don't you look official with the flag behind you and the town seal?
I mean, I would, yeah, it's at this like weird angle because I have to plug it in. And it's kind of far from the outlet. But we're trying this. We had talked about it, doing so that you can see me. Am I like, can you hear me or am I like echoing?
No, not at all. Sounds great.
Okay, awesome. Oh. David, I was just telling Amy that when I left my house, my son was complaining he didn't feel good. And I have had a kid home sick. This is our 3rd week. And I just need them all to go to school tomorrow.
Please.
go to school. Oh, so bad. Hello. I haven't seen you in so
I know.
long in
I know.
person.
I know it. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Good seeing you too.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hi, good. So nice to meet you in person. I'm
You
Betsy.
doing?
Nice to
See
meet
ya.
you.
How you doing? Good.
Hi, nice to meet you.
How you doing? Thanks for sending that stuff.
Well, you know, I
This is
sent it
great.
to you, but I think I had your email address. It kept coming, it kept.
The
coming
early
back.
one?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so I think we're good now.
I thought there were some links in that. But I did have it. I thought there were some links in there, but there aren't.
I'm not sure if the new guy's coming today. Maybe this is him.
Hello.
I know, it's weird in person, isn't
Oh
it?
my God, I don't have you set up.
Oh, that's fine, don't worry about it.
Yay.
There you go.
Great. Oh, wow. I'm like so excited. I feel like.
Coming from one meeting to the next.
Back to normal. Almost. How are you?
I'm doing good, it's nice to see you, Ken, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I know, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Hi, Betsy.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to meet you. Ken,
You're
Greg.
Greg, okay.
Yeah.
We're out.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and then there's a new guy coming. Potentially coming.
I know.
So I don't have to worry about you coming to get this. This is for the next meeting.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
So official, it's her, I didn't hear anything from her, she's not coming, so I'm guessing she'll be here.
Sorry, I don't want to work problem here.
Oh, yeah, you guys want binders. Those are like so nice. Amy did a really good job. When I started doing this, I didn't these. And it was a little tough to follow along, so this will definitely be. The maps are so helpful. There's like so many
Yeah,
papers.
yeah, I'm just wondering whether we're all talking off the same version of whatever email we got.
Right, so yes, so we're gonna be going off of David's memorandum distributed by email.
February 23rd.
Or,
Okay.
yeah. That's what we're going off of. I know the emails, they just like keep coming from all different directions. Oh, sure, there. Where's she?
What?
I didn't see you pop up.
I popped it, I snuck in. I was so quiet. Can you believe it? And that's just so unusual, really.
I know, I
I'm still
know.
organizing my downloading here, so, okay.
Amy had this great idea about laptops so that you could see people's faces directly on. So I thought we'd try it. See if there's any echo or anything, but it is weird because I'm looking there.
And there you
and
are.
It bugs me. Yeah. I see that I'm not looking at the camera. I see that I'm looking somewhere else. But yeah, so we are all officially here, 7:03. Today is, let's see, March 2nd, 2022. We'll call the meeting to order. Greg Zinser,
Here.
Hershey Hirschkopf,
Here,
Paul Bailey.
Here.
Ken Conley.
Here.
And Betsy Randall here. So there are 5 of us. Manley Gov is not here this evening, so for now, you'll be a voting member.
Okay.
We will go by the agenda and let's see, is there, so the approval of the previous meeting minutes for February 2nd, 2022. Everyone get a chance to look at those? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
second,
Hearing a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. A vote, Greg Zinser,
Yes.
Hershey Hirschkopf,
yes.
Paul Bailey,
Yes.
Ken Conley,
Yes.
and Betsy Randall, myself, yes. So that passes and is approved. And now the approval of the previous meeting minutes for February 16th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Hearing a second. Any discussion? Hershey?
Can I just make I don't think this is what I meant or what I said, but I could be wrong. And I know Amy listens to a tape when she does these, so maybe I didn't word it correctly, but there's at line 47, when I think I suggested a workshop, the way it's worded makes it sound like I'm suggesting growers are allowed to go beyond the 500 square feet the state allows, and that's not what I intended. And I don't think that's what I said.
I'll look at it, and if I need to reword it, I will.
Thanks, Amy. I think I just meant we should have a discussion about sort of the limits of the size in general, not that particular state requirement, which I agreed with. So I just want to make, thanks. Thank you. That's all.
So, Amy, would you want to change it and then we'll vote to approve it next time?
No, we'll just go ahead and redo the motion and second to say that we'll amend lines 47.
Okay. So,
So Greg
do I
could
hear
do-
a motion to amend the first amendment?
I motion to amend, since I'm the one who had the amendment, I guess.
Change line 47?
47, 48, 49, yeah.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none. I'll take a vote. Greg Zinser,
Yes.
Hershey Hirschkopf,
Aye.
Brunel Bailey,
Yeah.
Ken
Yes.
Conley,
Aye.
Betsy Randall, aye. That passes, the motion passes to approve the minutes from February 16th, 2022 with the amendment to line 47 for Hershey's request.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody here from the public that has anything to discuss this evening that's not on the agenda? Oh, Amy,
Meeting minutes from 2/2.
we did those.
We just passed.
Just
it.
right now.
We did that
was the
before we
first one.
did February 16th.
Oh, I didn't do that.
That was quick.
That's okay, that's okay. You can go back and watch it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Nope, I
All right,
got
don't
it.
be snarky, Betsy. Don't be snarky.
Oh my gosh, I swear, planning board meetings are so much more fun in person.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Awesome. So the first discussion item is to review and amend the planning board remote meeting policies, section 403B to C through H. The town attorney, Phil Saucier, did provide the town. I'm trying to remember who it was that emailed him. Was it Mallory? Mallory emailed him and he had a response. And then they came up with a new remote meeting policy based on our town attorney's recommendations. So we're gonna read them this evening and vote. If it's passed, we'll read them the second time at our next meeting to vote again, and then it'll be officially adopted. So did we get them in writing?
Yeah, they came in the packet Amy sent out with all the meeting minutes and everything else that was in there.
So everybody's reviewed them?
It's pretty
Yes.
straightforward, you
Yeah.
know, I don't really have any questions on it myself. Pretty
I'm good.
self-explanatory.
Yeah. So do I have a motion?
Yeah, I
to-
I do have a question.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Hopefully working off this correct copy here or whatever, but I don't believe it's needed to have in here, including requirements for participation or for participants being in person to be fully immunized. I think that can probably be taken out.
So that was that's more of a preference to somebody that was put in there as the person can make that. I guess.
I'm sorry, where is it that can you please just point out the section we're talking about in the policy?
Second paragraph, about 3 lines up, second paragraph, about 3 lines up from the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't. Picked up everything but that stuff.
Well, then probably need to find out what that whole section
So
3
that's the same-
means there.
Yeah, that same section was in the last one. And all that's really saying is that that's what the board member can use as one of their reasonings behind not coming in person.
Right, so for example, we don't require people to be vaccinated to be in person. And that might not sit well with everybody, in which case you have a choice to stay home if you feel like that's unsafe, or you have mitigating circumstances regarding that. I think that's what that's driving at. Yeah, is that right? Am I reading it right?
I'm just gonna read it again.
It's under number 3. I believe it's just the 3 issues,
Oh,
following circumstances, everybody.
so, yeah, so it's not required that you're immunized to come. But
No.
if someone were to feel uncomfortable or that their health might be at risk because they don't know if people are vaccinated or not, that is a reason why they can attend remotely.
Correct.
Is that clear?
That helps clear up what is being said, yeah. I wanted to make sure it's not a requirement to be immunized.
No.
Okay.
It's not clearly stated, but
All right,
Yeah.
so
as you said, that seems that way.
So
I
it
guess, and I
said,
would really wonder whether that's an excuse to not come either, but anyway.
that's what it is. It
Yeah.
is, that's what it is.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm
And I think that
questioning.
they're aligning that with, a lot of this came from the municipal and MMA. I think they're aligning that with what they allow. So if somebody, say Hershey said, I don't know if you're all immunized, she can't ask us. So that's her reasoning for staying at home and being remote.
it's everybody's individual choice if they're immunized or not. But
Okay.
somebody can say,
A board member.
a board member can say that they prefer to participate remotely.
for that
Okay.
reason.
for that.
Okay, I see. Now I understand what it's saying here. To
Okay.
me, it wasn't clear, but anyway.
Do I have a motion on the table for the approval or, yes, not approval? of these?
I move we adopt the remote participation policy dated July 7th, 2021 as the final and amended February 16th, 2022.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll, oh,
This will be voted on again next. So you said we do this twice.
yes, we have 2 readings. Yep. Greg Zinser,
Yes.
Hershey Hirschgop,
Aye.
Mel Bailey,
No,
Ken Conley.
Aye.
Betsy Randall, aye. So that motion to approve of the new remote participation policy dated July 7th, 2021, final amended from the February 16th, 2022 remote participation policy is approved. We'll have a second reading at our next meeting. Next on our agenda is our favorite topic. The continued review of the ordinance amendment from the town council memo regarding the planning board charge, medical marijuana registered caregiver, home occupation performance standards. David sent us out a wonderful memorandum. I hope everybody had the chance to look at it. Very clear. Thank you so much, David, for taking the time to do that. In the memorandum, you'll find that he did go through each question and him and Amy put in the vote so that we know how it was voted on. So we can be very clear moving forward as to what topics we will be discussing tonight. And there were a few things that we could not decide on. Those were basically more specific things that required numbers, and that's what we're going to be going over tonight. So let me just see what the first one.
I'm sorry, Betsy, can I just ask, I just want to make sure I understand how you're going to go about this. So you're just going to focus, you just said, on the ones we, that were still left up in the air, but the rest of them we're just going to skip through, right?
Yes. we
Okay,
already voted
thanks.
on-
Thanks. I just wanted clarity. Gotcha. Sounds good.
Absolutely. We don't need to go on the hamster wheel.
So with
Okay.
you there.
So David, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would go to number 7, option B.
Hold on, let me get to where you are. Hold on. Hold on, we're going to
Roman numeral
client
3.
visit,
It's,
client visits.
Hmm.
Hold on. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you are, we've got number 8, which is,
number 6.
okay, number 6. No goods can be maybe sold for the property. That one? What page are you on?
I'm on page 3. Option
three.
B.
Wait, I think-
Okay.
Approved that we would allow home sales, and now we need to go through each of the items under B to determine what we want those particular parameters to be.
Hey, Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think question 3 was undecided as well. So I don't really care about the order, but if we're going in order, it was sort of, there was a left up in the air thing yet to be defined moment for that one too.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Sorry.
let's go back to 3 then. We'll go back to
Okay.
3. I saw the vote, and I missed that part. So
Yeah,
we'll go
no,
back to question
Yes.
number 3. The board place additional restrictions on growing areas beyond the 500 square foot state allowance per licensed caregiver. And the board did vote that we would, but we do not have a number. So that is up for discussion. Is there anybody in particular that would like to speak first?
I nominate Greg.
Hey, come on. Herb. You
Good one.
know.
And I did read Greg's, marked up copy before the meeting, so I just want to say,
I prepared a few things, no.
shocking. Okay,
So I think, from my understanding from last week, I understand, the synopsis here, Dave, great information, really laid it out clearly. And I don't really have any questions here. I do have some thoughts, however. I think a lot of these questions right now, this is just my thought, really, before we get into each answering one of these questions, I think there's a couple key things that if we answer some questions related to the definitions, a lot of this other stuff would probably fall into place. So I guess, in other words, what I'm gonna do, just for purposes of this part of the conversation,
Mhm.
I don't know if I did make some redlined suggestions. I don't know if I asked that to be sent out. It was done this afternoon. So I understand if no one has had an opportunity to look at them.
I read him.
Okay, and so because we're talking about, about item 3 here, should we place additional restrictions? Again, I see that as being an issue related to the definition. And so on the document that Dave had sent us, I mocked up a couple areas that I think present some conflict. In other words, what we're discussing down here under major home occupation is now somewhat in conflict with the minor home occupation. And I think those are probably easy to resolve. But again, for me, when we're discussing the beyond the allowances beyond the state, that's kind of a confusing question, because we can't allow the caregivers to operate beyond what they're already allowed in state law. We can regulate them, but we can't say you're 500 square feet, oh, you can grow 600. We can't do that. So I think the question's a little odd to me, but I think for me, if we were to focus on the definition of a registered caregiver, Dave gave us a proposed definition. And he also, gave us some other points of consideration for the square footage limitations. And I think if we answer really those two questions, a lot of the other things will fall into place. And so I guess what I'm gonna say here is, rather, from my perspective, beginning on really what is page 4 of David's memo is kind of what I'm operating on here. I don't need to go back and rehash what we did at the last meeting. I know what we did. And Dave took that information from us and gave us what he thinks is based on what he heard, kind of what would be an updated draft of the ordinance, based on our various motions that were made. And you made this motion, so I'm gonna spit this out to you. Here's an idea of something to look at to answer some of that question. So again, I think it's about the square footage limitation and ultimately the definition from my perspective. So, what I'll do I'm looking at page 5 of his memo right now. And that is the square footage limitation. So I'm looking at item number 3.
So I'm gonna hold up right
Yeah,
there
go
before
ahead.
we move on. Hershey,
Oh, I'm a little confused because I don't think anybody is suggesting we exceed the state limit. I don't think that was ever up for discussion, right? We're really just talking about, are we gonna put a size on buildings that you grow stuff in? And I remember there was, a 1,200 foot, one, and a 1,500 foot, or should we have no limit? And I think that's sort of the last burning question we need to figure out, right?
there's a couple questions, but that being said, and David and I had a great discussion today about memos moving forward, and that any recommendations that he has, yes, is gonna come from us as a board. But anytime there's numbers or there's specifics, he's just going to do X's. And we will fill that in ourselves. That should be a decision we make. And so moving forward, yes, he's gonna take what we say, but he's not gonna necessarily recommend what we should do in terms of like the limitations. Unless.
No,
he's-
I got you. That's what we're at, right? We're about to discuss whether or not and what that will look like if you want a building, but we're certainly not debating anything about, growing canopy. That's all set by state regulation.
No, I don't,
Right?
I think Greg was just trying to explain, kind of like in the scenario.
Okay.
Am I
Yeah,
correct?
no, I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. I'm just having trouble kind of following. There's a lot of information in front of us. And I guess from my perspective, I trust we made the motions last time, I see it clearly, I know the minutes, I know what we voted on. Dave took that, compiled that, and basically gave us an updated draft.
Right.
And I'm
But
ready to
he put
kind
in the
of,
numbers.
yeah, that's fine, so I think we just need to go through it.
Well,
Right.
but I think the only thing we didn't decide, everything was decided except it looks like whether there will be a size limit and to set some hours, because it looks like the hours weren't put in by David either. So to me, those are the only two things that were unanswered from last week, right? From last meeting.
Hershey, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that we're gonna follow the
Okay,
document.
okay,
And we're gonna go through each of the points and
Yep.
the places we didn't
Okay.
pick numbers, we're gonna pick numbers right now. So question number 3, should the board place additional restrictions on growing areas beyond the 500 square foot? We did vote yes, and this is a cumulative square footage of the entire business, not just the canopy. So we're not exceeding any type of square footage in terms of what growers are allowed in terms of the canopy. That remains at 500, but cumulatively, what kind of restrictions do we want to place? And we can do that by number of square footage, but we could also do percentage of property. And those are the 2 routes we can take. Does anybody have a preference as to whether or not we do a number or if we do a percentage?
I think it should be a hard number.
Okay. Hershey, do you feel like a hard number or a percentage?
I'm not, I think I'm I think I was a number 2 in this vote, that I didn't think we should put any, that we don't for other occupations tell people what they can or cannot build on their property, whether you want to put a barn there or not. So I don't see why this would be different, I guess.
So the fact is that we voted that there would be a restriction, and so
Yeah,
now.
we voted 3-2, but I was against it. So you can, the majority can rule on this one, but my position was no. So
And I actually had to go back there because I'm like, wait a second, it's Hershey and Greg they're the two. Could I make a clarification on this one point?
Very quickly.
Okay, so if we're looking at when I put the numbers in number 3, the only reason why I put the numbers which were highlighted in blue at 500 is because we know that that's the maximum state number. So I sort of put that in there in blue as do we want to go bigger than that or whatever? And then I thought about, okay, well, when you have 2 registered caregivers, they by state regs would get 1,000, but they're also going to have, but they go by grow area. So we're really talking about, okay, if they're each allowed 500 square feet, we should show that on some kind of a plan. And the only reason why I added the blue at the bottom or 25% is I took that from the minor home occupation and I started working through it. Now, the issue that sort of comes up with that is, let's just play devil's advocate here, okay? When you're looking at the numbers here, if I go, I've got 2 home growers and the state says I can give them 1,000 square feet combined, okay? Just, I'm talking very basics here. If you go by a percentage like has been done with the minor home occupations, for example, well, actually, I shouldn't use that as an example. So you're only allowed to have a certain percentage of your house. Now, if I take that 1,000 square foot, the issues that I have with it is to get 1,000 square feet allowable, I would need to have a primary residence 4,000 square feet in square footage to make that same 25% standard. So I was showing that in there as, okay, here's what we've looked at before. And so, okay, suddenly you have a 1,800 square foot house. All of a sudden, that 1,000 square feet becomes more than that, becomes the principal square footage. So I was trying to figure that out. So I don't know if you want that in there or you just want to go with the state standard. The problem that I pointed out last time is the state standards tend to change. We can be more restrictive. And so I thought if the board adopted specifics in here, even if the state standard changed, the board would know that these standards are in place for this particular municipality.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
David. And Hershey, I just want to say that I understand that you voted against it, but you still have a voice in this vote, and we are going to be choosing something. So I wanted to give you the opportunity.
No, I understand. Thanks. Thank you. No, I get that. And can I just ask David one thing? But David, you assume that people would be growing in their house, but if people are growing in a hoop house or a barn, it's not a percentage of your principal building at all, right? So that would be a completely different discussion, wouldn't it?
Right. And that's why this particular item is so sort of pivotal on what you do.
Right.
I could go in and talk to Joe tomorrow and say, hey, Joe, I want to put up a 3,000 square foot garage. I've got all kinds of extra cars. My kids have all their snowmobiles and blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And I want to build that. Joe, if it's allowed to be built in the district, he would issue a permit. You also have a lot of farms out there that people might go, hey, I could at least, grow this, insulate it maybe, and it's at least a covered structure or something. So
Can I ask them?
that sort of, so we need to sort of go, okay, you don't want to have a 10,000 square foot barn that's just growing marijuana because that's beyond the state standard. But I think what we are looking for is, okay, they can have 1,000 square feet. I don't care if it's in a barn. I don't care if it's in their garage. I don't care if it's,
Well, okay. Is there anywhere else in our zoning code where we limit the size of an accessory building besides density, lot size, and setbacks? Is there anywhere else in the entire code where we say you can't build a house this big or a barn this big or an accessory building or a shed this big? I'm just asking the question. I just want David to tell me.
No, the point of order, we've already decided that we are going to limit it. So I don't want to rehash it. I just want to pick a number or pick a percentage, and we're not going to go back to just and have the discussion if it is or is not going to be limited. We've already done that. So I am open to a motion if somebody prefer. I mean, based on David's recommendation, it sounds to me like having a specific square footage makes more sense than having a percentage. But I can't make motions, so I'll entertain a motion regarding.
So what, I'll speak. I believe as we move forward in the discussion of item number 3, which is the square footage, I believe that it should be a cumulative square foot, and therefore the percentage that they put in for comparison to give us another idea, to play the devil's advocate piece. I don't agree. I understand what he's saying, and I think what he's saying is, are we going to talk about it, keep it in, take it out? What do you want to do? I say we should not do the percentage. So I would say, for purposes of this conversation, where Dave put in there, or 25% of the gross floor area, which is basically lifted from the minor home occupation, should be taken out. And I think we should address it specifically from a cumulative square foot perspective. And I also have, a few thoughts on that particular, definition, which I'm happy to share. But again, it's probably the bigger issue is the square footage limitation. So I look at the number that I'm going to throw out. Everybody always focuses on the grow area. I've said this before 100 times. It's more than just the grow area. There's many other items, many other things that registered caregivers can do. They can grow 500 square feet of mature canopy. They can have an unlimited number of seedlings, immature plants. They can cook. They can make gummies. They can do extraction. They can process. They can do all sorts of other things. And so I think for us to say, focus specifically on, they can only have 500 square feet of cultivation area, basically says, okay, I can have my 500 square feet of cultivation area, but I'm still going to build a very large outbuilding on my property to accommodate all of the other actions that I am allowed to do as a registered caregiver. So again, that's why I think the cumulative square foot per lot, which includes all the accessory structures, the principal building, so that we don't go down the road of 500 square feet here and then 1,000 over there. And then before you know it, in the residential zone, you're really getting very close to that 2,500 square foot mark of having to go out to the industrial zone. You know, where there is supposed to be a separation between growth and cultivation and the industrial zone, the I1 or I2, wherever it ended up, and a residential application. When you start creeping up closer and closer to that 2,500 square foot mark, you're really blurring that line of when does it become a home occupation versus a commercial operation as we've defined in our current code. At the last meeting, I said 1,000 square feet. That was voted on, it was voted out. That's a number that I would maintain, but I'm willing to hear other thoughts, because I think the other person, maybe you, Betsy, I
Yeah.
don't know, threw out 2,000 and that didn't pass.
Right.
So I'm willing to listen to what other people have to say, and if we can come up with a square foot number, again, you know, while that is a question we have to answer, I also look at the document that Dave gave us, and it's not really the be all end all. I mean, I'm assuming he's looking for, do you have any problems with the way this sentence is laid out? And I think there could be some minor changes there and some suggestions on how we do, you know, how the definition is set up and established for clarification later on down the road. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm asking everybody to continue and consider all of the items that a registered caregiver can do in a residential zone, and where we end up and how that compares to what's allowed in the commercial zone. And there is a clear distinction of why they call it commercial versus a home occupation. So I'm gonna stick myself for right now for 1,000 square feet cumulatively per lot, unless someone else has another number to discuss.
Okay, great, thank you, Darren.
Can I get my 3 minutes? Does
Yes.
everybody get theirs?
Yes, absolutely.
For the record, I'd rather not restrict everybody's work area within their own operation. The 500 square feet is clearly a governor that the state had put on the output. And it is what it is. You know, we've got that in place. Beyond that, processing area varies. You know, clearly from a standpoint that Joe's gonna have to deal with, an enforcement standpoint, a number rather than a percentage. It's gonna be easier for them to manage. So I agree with that. Since we've been charged with one or the other, that's the direction. I mean, if the state has already put the commercial limit at 2,500, then I see, and that's for two people, right? 2 caregivers. Clarify, please.
3.
I'll let you,
No, I'm
Finish,
asking
Ken.
a question. The use of the state 2,500
no,
is.
that's what the town has said
The
in a
town.
prior ordinance
So
on the
the town
cultivation
says
piece.
2,500 puts us in a commercial zoning,
Yep.
and that's per
Or more.
3
Three
or
or
more. So 3 or more. So we have. Right, so 333 square feet per person on top of their 500 is there considered their work area roughly.
It depends, because you can have common spaces. That kind of thing.
Agreed. But that would be our maximum capacity that we could allow before we push them into another category.
If you look for a numbers perspective, yes, that is correct.
Well, I'm not sure that's exactly how to think about the cultivation number that, I mean,
I know, I'm just.
the planning board recommended 5,000 square feet, I believe, and the town council decided to lower it. And it wasn't because anybody had any particular information or study or input that said this was a better number for 3+ caregivers. It was just to limit the size of a facility in the industrial zone. There's no other takeaway from that, except they just picked a number.
Okay, Ken, you have the floor.
I was just looking for an expanded understanding of the numbers that are flying around, where our actual limits are, because it seems like there is some outside of what we've been talking about. Again, I'd rather not restrict an individual's work area, but if we're gonna have to, it'll be a hard number. And I'd shoot for as much space as we can legally allow, which I'm guessing would be my mistake. Or not.
Ken, could you, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak up a little?
I said, again, I would rather not restrict an individual's work area within their own, so. But if we're going to, if we are charged with a number, I would rather a hard number than a percentage, can be easier to enforce. And I would like to go with a maximum available, short of pushing them into the next category. So if that number works out to 333 on top of the 500, then that's what I like. to
There,
go.
and just, David, can you clarify? Because I don't think there's a maximum we can push them into. I don't think that's how it works.
No, there is what the council adopted already was, the council said if you could have a maximum growing area of 2,500 square feet in the industrial zone, and it's basically 3 people and more. If you're a caregiver or if you're a growing facility, you go to the industrial zone. We're talking 2 people and in residential zoning districts, really here.
Can I chime in real quick? I believe there's some confusion on the rules in regards to.
Yep, John?
Yep.
John, I apologize. I see your hand up. I'm just gonna let each of the board members speak
Okay.
first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speak out a lot.
I'll introduce you after Burnell. Thank you.
All right.
very
I'm
much.
so sorry, guys. Did not mean to hop in.
Are you finished?
Oh, yeah, fairly.
Okay,
confused, yes.
Burnell. We all are. Go ahead, Burnell.
I do have a question about it, and I think it is germane, knowing what we have for other businesses, okay? What are the numbers then, okay? Not to open it up, whether we do have other businesses that do this, or what are the numbers that apply to other businesses?
I believe there aren't any, which is what we
If-
discussed,
So,
which is what we discussed last time.
No, if there are numbers, the if for home occupation, so residential districts, if you're having a home occupation, you're allowed, it can only be a maximum of 25% of your home. Of
For a
the actual
minor.
residence.
For a minor home occupation, right?
Come on.
Yeah,
No.
but this is the first major one. So this is the first standard in here. So
So for a major home occupation, there is no number, right?
They have to follow
that's
the-
what that's why I put the highlighted in blue
Right.
on that 25%. Right now, home occupations gotta have that 25%. If it's a
For a
major,
minor, David, for a minor home occupation, 25%. For a major home occupation, no limit, right?
not now.
Right, okay.
That's
all.
what
That's all.
that's
Just
what
wanna
we're
make
looking
clear.
at.
Right,
So I just want to come back to Burnell's question. There is no limit on other major home occupations as to size.
okay, so we're essentially setting the standard here, precedent, if you will, on
On,
possibly on major home occupations.
yes, and that'll be
Sensitive.
dependent on if we decide to create its own home occupancy guidelines, or if we put it as a major home occupation with everything else. So, yeah, if we put a limit on this and then we say, well, we want it to be treated like any other major home occupation, then yes, we would be limited.
And if a home occupation would exceed the standards, they come in and someone wants to do something, Joe would go through the application with them and say, "Ooh, wait a second, you need to curtail this, you need to do that to fit in with the standards that are the board's deciding here." So if
Okay.
someone came in and they said, I want to build a 5,000 square foot building and I just want to grow weed kind of thing, he could say, well, you're allowed to do this in this square footage as a home use.
Okay, I'm sorry, Greg.
Dave, if I read correctly under major home occupation, and maybe it's incorrect, and maybe I'm looking at something different. But full compliance with the standards listed under minor home occupations.
Mhm.
Or was that something that you added?
Say again?
So I'm looking at page 4 of your memo.
Yep, I am too.
I'm looking under A1.
Okay, A1, a minor home occupation shall be carried on wholly within the principal building or within a building or other structure accessory to it and shall utilize at a maximum no more than 500 square feet or 25% of the gross floor area of the principal structure, whichever is less.
So then go down to item B, B2,
So
1.
it's, if you look on the town website, it does not say that a major home occupation needs to be in full compliance with the standards listed for minor
Okay,
occupations.
so
So this was something
that
added.
answers, that answers the question. Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah, okay.
Understood.
Burnell, was there anything else that,
Not-
Okay.
Not right now.
okay, John, I will give you the floor. Do you feel like 3 minutes is enough time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I just had some questions. You know, I wanted some clarity on some of the numbers and where you guys were generating the 500 square feet, you know, and the amount of caregivers per site. You know, the state only allows for 2 caregivers to operate out of one place. So having 3 or more, it's not even something that's legal on a state level. Another thing you're not considering is there are dispensary licenses that are going out for cultivation. This more licenses square footage as opposed to a plant count or, you know, a canopy. You know, so these are some things to consider when coming into this. You know, I was one of the former owners of one of the major at-home businesses operations in Kittery, Maine. You know, really saw them go through this process, and you know, some things they got right, and there were some things that we found to be very restrictive. But my question is you know, what is South Berwick's, you know, ideal future for cannabis in their town? You know, what we're seeing right now in our industry is you know, a very soft market right now. It's hard for the small craft size operations that would be operating out of homes to survive. And you know, I want to know how you plan to address, you know, the people that want to expand. You know, I know there's a whole nother agenda on the commercial I-9 area. I think we need to think bigger on some of these things, and you know, also try not to restrict these people that are trying to carve a living out of their home. You know, we see the restrictions in Kittery where it's half the size of the square footage, and that has to contain your entire cannabis business. That would require a retail store, your kitchen, you know, your grow area. It's very, you know, it's very limiting. You know, so in regards to what you guys are looking for as a town, I think you really need to, you know, put your heads together and see what works best for everybody, because you know, there's opportunities still for people in this industry, but I feel like that window's starting to shut, and these small craft or, you know, craft companies have enough problems, you know, staying in business right now. How can we help these people? Because from what I understand, you know, taxes generated off of, you know, the equipment that goes into these places. You know, I have a 40 light operation, and I know I'm probably close to $300,000 into this operation now. That's some decent taxable money for towns. I don't think it's the end all be all, but you know, I think you guys have a good thing, but I think you really need to expand off it and be very clear about it. And
Hey, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Hey, John, could you introduce yourself? I'm not really sure, you know, are you doing business in Kittery, and do you live in South Berwick, and do you run a
so
business?
I have interest in, you know, in potentially expanding into Kittery. Currently, I'm in the Carrabassett Valley. I have greenhouses up here. You know, I'm dealing with, you know, a much
not
smaller.
live-
What's that?
Live in South Berwick?
No, I do not. But I was
Okay.
planning on potentially looking into opening a business in South Berwick.
That is my fault. You have a business in South Berwick? Is that what
No,
you said?
I'm thinking about expanding into South Berwick.
Okay, so unfortunately, this is a town meeting and only residents of South Berwick are a part of this meeting.
Okay.
So I apologize.
Oh, no, I'm sorry again, you know, I mean, it just, but yeah, I mean, I just thought I could possibly offer some insight to, you know, with my experience, what happened in Kittery.
Okay.
You know, sorry
Thank
for
you,
wasting
John.
time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So- So Burnell spoke, and so we each had time to say whether or not we preferred the square footage number or the percentage, and it seems that the square footage number is the preferred method to do this. And Greg has said 1,000 square feet is where he stands.
Again, I'm not hearing anything else. And so I'm willing to talk about something else, but no one has given a number. We talked about 1,000, was said no, 2,000, no. I'm not saying the proverbial middle is the place to meet. All I'm saying is I'm contemplating as I sit here and think about square footage and, we talk about, how big and the limitations on impacts on neighbors and free rights on property, and I understand and get all of that. Burnell, kind of to a little bit of your point, don't know where this will end up. I've been suggesting, again, wherever it ends up, when the board votes on, we vote on, I really believe it needs to be a separate standalone item. Because when we start talking about square footage limitations, and who else is subject to this, and who else is subject to that, this is a different issue. This is an issue that has been identified by the town council in need of regulation. And they have given us a directive on what they are looking for. And they have outlined their directive and what they're looking for in a memo to us that said they want this, they want that, and they want these items. Those are all contained within David's memo. So we have an obligation to meet that requirement. And again, when we start getting into minor home occupation, major home occupation, where's that gray area? Where, what is it? Well, at what point does it become a major home occupation that has to come to the planning board? Again, that's why I'm saying that the town council has said, we want you to regulate this. They regulated the commercial, they put them out in the I1, I2, or I2, whatever one that is. Fine. Now we want you to regulate the registered caregivers. And here's the problem with the registered caregivers. We heard that, it can only be 2 or more. No, there is a difference between a caregiver and a registered caregiver. Caregivers don't need to be registered if they're 2 or less. They can grow for people in their family. That's it. Registered caregivers have to obtain licensing from the state because it becomes a business. And the town council recognized that and said, we want to regulate them, because right now, there are no regulations on this particular industry in town for registered caregivers. Other than what's on the books, that if they want to cultivate in a cultivation facility with their 500 square feet and other common areas, they have to go out to the industrial zone if there's going to be 3 or more of them. But again, what are we left with in the residential zones? In the residential zones, we're left with the concept or the idea that registered caregivers operating out of their home can operate right now with no restrictions. That's why they said to regulate them. So we need to regulate them. Now we're saying, go to the percentage. I agree. We're going to go with a cumulative set number of square footage. I'm saying 1,000. That didn't pass at the last meeting. I'm not going to beat that dead horse. 2,000, I'm not going to beat that dead horse. What is it? What's the number? What do we want to do? I think is really what this comes down to. I have other suggestions in the definition that can come next week if we can agree on a number.
Yeah, I'm
again-
actually, if you don't mind, I know Ken and I both voted for 2,000. For now, you and Hershey, the 2 of you were not for 1,000 and not for 2,000. So I'd like to hear from the both of you as to where you are. And maybe you're gonna say, in Hershey, I don't know, I mean, you might just say no to any number, but I want you to be a part of the conversation, and, I really value your opinion.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Betsy. I Appreciate that.
Burnell, where do you fall in this?
Okay, don't know. I voted on the number because I wasn't sure of what to go
Yes.
to. I wanted more discussion, so I didn't want to stay put in the ground for a number right now. And so learning more here right now on that.
Yeah.
And I think there are some more questions to be thrown around here and such.
What
No, I don't-
questions do you have?
Well, okay, so one of, where you're talking about say 1,000, you're talking total there, right?
Total cumulative square footage.
Yeah.
Not per caregiver.
No, I'm not talking, so here's the thing, we have the ability to regulate the use.
No, that's okay.
So we have the ability to regulate the use, which is what we're doing. comes to the registered caregivers, again, I'm not thinking about just their grow area. I don't care about their grow area because they have the state limitation on that. That's fine. I'm thinking about in a residential zone, if we're going to be allowing some semblance of retail sales, we're gonna have, you know, food products potentially being manufactured if they get a food license, but they don't necessarily have to go get a food license to do some limited amount of production, extraction, all of the other items. And so I'm looking at this as an operation.
So the 1,000 is processing area.
The 1,000
It's
is
cumulative area.
cumulative for all of it. You can only do 500 square feet right now per state law.
But if you got two people, that
That-
500 eats up to 1,000.
Yeah, so is it a business, and where I'm coming from, with my 1,000, again, haven't heard another number yet, but where I'm coming from is it, if they're in it for business, if they're trying to make a go of it and be a business, do they have to make business decisions? And two caregivers operating there, maybe they grow 400 square feet apiece. And then their 200 square feet, they can share as common area. And they can have some other semblance of an operation. Again, that's just where I'm coming from.
What, can I ask, what was the reasoning for curtailing down to that degree?
Because I think it's highly possible, Ken, that in a residential zone, what if you look at if you limit them to their 500 square feet and don't address from a cumulative square foot perspective, all of the other activities they can do, I can grow in my 500 square foot garage, I can grow my 500 square feet of canopy. And then I can build a 2,000 square foot. If I meet the setback requirements, I can build a barn out back. And I can have my processing operating out of there. I can have extraction operating out of there, which presents more of an issue for its integration with a residential neighborhood,
I'm not
from my
talking something
perspective.
exorbitant, but the two people were allowed 500 each, which would have been 1,000. And by doing so, that's a major restriction on any, even a walk.
Right,
So that's why I'm saying why, what.
yeah. So you just said in your own words that you're not looking for anything exorbitant, and I agree with that concept. And what I'm saying here is, that's why I agree and made the motion to do a cumulative square foot reduction. Haven't heard a number yet.
Well,
And,
you have, you're still in agreement,
well, but no, they were voted down. So no number exists at this point in time.
right?
As far
But
as
you
I'm
said you
concerned.
had a number and.
Yep, and
this is
I'm not
true. I
gonna-
have a number too.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna beat that dead horse
Yeah.
because those motions failed. And so, in my view, there needs to be a limitation on that in a residential zone so that we keep our residential zones residential and keep them at a sufficient level from a square footage perspective before they start to creep up and get close to the commercial aspects of an operation, which we've defined out there for the industrial zone.
I'm not challenging it.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to explain to you.
Mindset
but-
where you-
Yeah, that's
Okay.
where I'm coming from.
Bernell, what other questions do you have that need to be answered before you feel like you can vote?
What would be the requirement for this additional footage for processing, et cetera? You know, talking about, okay, two people, 1,000 feet, that doesn't leave any, well, as you say, in the position, what, how they're going to allot their square footage. So,
Right, and so my answer to that is this. This is why I'm looking at the cumulative square footage. 500 square feet of your grow area. How much square footage are they gonna have for their seedlings and their immature plants? 500 square feet, maybe, who knows? How much are they gonna have in the kitchen area? 500 square feet, who knows? 500 square feet is not much when you look at it as an individual 500 square feet. How much for extraction? 200 square feet. By the time you're done adding that up, you could potentially have in a residential zone, a 2,000 square foot building to accomplish all of this. Now I say to myself, geez, residential zone, commercial zone, commercial's commercial and residential is residential, a home occupation. When you're talking a home occupation, it is secondary to the use of a home. 2,000 square feet is a fairly large home in this town. And in a residential zone, where is that balancing act of residential really creeping into a commercial operation? Because it can happen right now. That's where I'm coming from with the commercial operation. And when it comes to all of the items, not just the grow, I'm talking about all of those items, where does that fit in a residential zone? So that's where I come up with the 1,000 square feet. People are gonna have to make some business decisions. This is a business, okay? It's a legitimate business in the state of Maine. They get a license, they can do it. Now it's up to us to start to regulate that. Do we do 1,800 square feet, 1,500 square feet, 1,200 square feet? If you just say grow area, you are ignoring all of those other things that they can do.
Okay, thank
That's
you,
my
Greg.
point.
Thank you. I just want to point out the definition of a home occupation, which in our code says an occupation or use which is conducted by a person or persons on the same lot where such person resides and which does not change the character thereof. Home occupations may be classified as either a minor or major home occupation. So I just want to clarify that it does not necessarily say in our code that a home occupation means that the business has to be secondary. That's all I want to say, but it has to remain in the character of a home. Hershey.
I'm not sure, I'm not sure I have a lot to add. I might just say, repeat again for maybe Vernal's, sake, and I think Ken has heard it probably, but we've had 20 or so caregivers for about 12 years, at least in the last few years in this town. Most people don't know that they even exist. A lot of them rent space in other places and don't even grow here. And we've really singled out marijuana, despite the fact you can grow tomatoes in a 3,000 square foot barn on your property if you choose to, and sell it at a farm stand. I live in an R3 neighborhood. I'm not in a rural area. I'm not in Old Mill either, which is suburban, but I'm in an area where I have 6 acres and I could build a big barn and do all sorts of home occupations in it. And yet we've singled out marijuana. And I get that in some ways marijuana is a little different, but we are talking about medical marijuana. We're not even talking about recreational marijuana. And to me, setting this limit is it's a taking. People are allowed to build things on their property, right? We don't ask anybody else who grows something else to limit the size of what they grow. We have zoning and a zoning ordinance that takes into effect your impact on your neighbors, right? In terms of setbacks and density. And to me, that
Well,
is
Hershey?
sufficient.
Hershey, what is the lowest number you'll go to vote yes? I mean, are we talking like 6,000 or are you?
You know what? I think part of the problem, and I know John is not from South Berwick, but we don't have any professional help to tell us. I have no information to tell me how much space do they really need besides their 500. And also I'd like to point out, this is not an unregulated industry. This industry is regulated up the wazoo by the state of Maine. You wouldn't believe the hoops they have to jump through. It's not like you can walk in and fill out a form and walk away. Everybody who touches a marijuana plant is incredibly regulated, and all you have to do is ask somebody in the industry what that sounds like, and they'll go off for an hour about it. So it's not like it's the Wild West. I just want to say that.
I just want to point out then that we do have to come up with a number, and it could be 10,000 for all I care. But we know where Greg stands. I still feel like 2,000 square feet is fair. But at the same time, I know that Hershey, you would say 10,000. I'm not sure where you're standing, Ken, but I feel like Burnell, you have an important role right now. And we need to know where, if you were to make a motion right now on square footage, where would you land?
I don't mind saying another number that's been used before. I'd say 1,000.
Okay.
So, well, total.
You're basically putting these people out of business. When you see 1,000 square feet, you're just really trying to drive them out of our town and out of business. It's not business friendly. It's not nice. You can't possibly expect somebody who's allowed to have a 500 square foot canopy not basically maximize their business and then have any other room left to do anything with their property.
Okay. Gee, I only want to talk numbers now.
I'm talking numbers. I'm saying 1,000 square feet is basically just to drive people out of business. Let's just be honest about it, right? That's an untenable number for somebody who's for people who are allowed to grow 1,000 square foot of canopy.
Point of order, please. We are done discussing that part. I just want to come up with a number. We know that you will vote no for 1,000. I will vote no for 1,000. Ken voted no for 1,000. 1,000 is not gonna do it. And we have put out 2,000. 2,000 is not going to do it. So we need to come up with some number that we're willing to negotiate on. And
I
Go
just
ahead,
have a
Amy.
comment.
go ahead.
If the board cannot come up with a number, you can send that to the town council and say, you were unable to come up with a number. We spent X amount of time discussing it. This is a one spot we don't have. This is a recommendation to the town council. This is not etched in stone. The town council has to vote on it. So I'm just putting that out there.
I mean, I will entertain a motion that we send to town council this with no number and say we couldn't agree.
You can't come up with something and just fulfill our duty. You
You,
know,
you would think,
You know,
but there are two.
If it goes to town council, it
You
will
know.
likely be more restrictive.
May I have a point of clarification, please?
Yes, David.
So from what I was hearing, it seemed like we had at least a majority of folks who wanted to make sure that we didn't have the 25%. That's coming out. We're really just gonna, so right now, because I'm gonna work on my document here and I'm gonna take stuff out or put stuff in. I'll leave it in the working document, but I want to highlight things that I'm taking out.
David, take out the 25%, put XXX square feet, and that's it.
Okay.
We're done. We're done with that number. We're gonna go to number 6.
Was there going to be a vote or a motion for a square footage number, at least to send to the council? or
No,
just-
what we're
You know,
saying,
you
David,
don't-
is we can't agree.
No, we haven't gotten to that point yet. And so if the concern is to come up with a number, I'll be generous and I'll go up to 1,200 square feet. That allows for some common areas.
Make your motion.
I motion that we set it at 1,200 square feet cumulatively per lot.
Do I have a second? Second, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. Greg Zinser,
Yes.
Hershey Hirschkraut,
No,
Al Bailey,
Yes.
Ken Conley,
No,
Betsy Randall, no. That does not pass.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Could that vote be read back?
That was a yes from Greg, a no from Hershey, a yes from Brunel, a no from Ken, and a no from me.
could I say Hershey makes a fair point? We had some information come from a professional in the industry for about 2 minutes. And it wasn't a resident, but it makes a good point. I manage a shop that has carpenters, mechanics, electricians, locksmiths, I'm not gonna tell them what they need for area because I don't understand the tools and the job they do completely. So this is a very hard thing, and if we don't have some delicate hands with it, you're right, we're gonna screw them totally. So
thank you, Ken. Can I suggest since John, are you still here? If John is still here, can we just ask him a question or two since
No,
he is a professional?
John is not a resident of South
We're
Carolina.
operating in a vacuum without any information about how to make this decision.
Then we will talk to Tim, the town manager, to find somebody that we can
Okay.
go to and ask these questions. And maybe the best thing is to ask Tim, request from Tim that we have a consultant. Or that the town.
Or then let the
council-
town council deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Take a
I'm okay with that.
To the town council.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to move this to town council,
The square footage thing.
the square
Yes.
footage, yes.
I make a motion that we leave XXX square footage as an open point and let the town council deal with it.
On
As a
both
recommendation.
is that for both the per licensed caregiver at 500 and the 1,000? You just want both of those numbers X'd out, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, take a vote. Greg,
No.
Hershey,
Aye.
Brunel,
No.
Ken?
no,
Really? Okay.
Then let's
I'm a
table
little
it.
lost.
I'll
Well,
table it.
I want to watch paint dry.
I hear ya. Did I not ask Jim, what do I do in this situation?
You have to know what you're supposed to do.
So this one, yes for now.
I think there was a valid comment made, I forget by whom, but that we might get somebody who could give some ideas on what it takes to process or whatever stuff, so we aren't working in a complete vacuum, you know. To
So-
get further down the line to find out. I'll put a number on this.
Or so, I guess it would be to make a motion to request from Tim a consultant
Within the industry,
within the industry.
not from state level.
Make that motion.
I
Again,
motion that we request that our town
Request.
manager sources a consultant from within the industry, a professional consultant from within the industry that we can extract usable information
For this specific.
for this
For this-
specific, just the square footage
for
work
this
area required.
specific.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yes, absolutely.
Who is the original motion? Is that
And
Ken? Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
I'm gonna, two things. I'm gonna say if someone wants to go back and if we want to revisit the prior motion to send it to the town council, I'm gonna vote, if someone wants to, who voted in favor of it, wants to reopen that and rescind, I'll vote to send it to the town council. I think it's a fruitless endeavor to invite someone who's a quote unquote professional from the industry. I think that would be completely lopsided. And hearing from one side, this topic has been ongoing in the town for years. We've heard when it was the medical storefront issue, we heard from the quote unquote industry, the caregivers who came, the small number of caregivers who came to the town council and said, it is unsafe for us. We don't feel safe selling out of our homes. We need to have storefronts in town. So I'm not willing to go down that road and have a one-sided conversation again. So I'm going to vote no for this motion to bring in an industry expert for another reason. And that is, we have the guidelines in front of us. We know, I don't need them to tell me that they can grow 500 square feet. I'm very adept at reading and understanding all the ordinances, have a lot of experience with it. I don't need them to tell me what they can and can't do. I understand, I can read and understand on my own. This comes down to just simply for me, a compatible or incompatible use within a residential zone. That's where I'm going to leave that. I don't want to hear from an industry expert. The information is there. It comes down to whether or not, personally, for me, I would want to see it in a residential zone. I've stated my case for the square footage requirement that didn't pass. Again, it is what it is. So I'm going to vote no for the motion that's on the table to engage a consultant. I think it'd be a fruitless waste of time, effort, and money.
check. Thank you, Greg. Hershey, your vote.
Greg, I guess I don't think this is as there's sides. Like, I don't feel like there should be sides in this. We're trying to do what's right for our town and right for a group of different people. It shouldn't be I'm against marijuana or in for marijuana. And I have a deep respect for a lot of people who make their living this way. And I know some of them, and they're fine people. And I believe they will give us a good reading and their judgment on how they run their business. It's not that they're going to come in and make things up or lie or push the envelope to get more space. I'd really like to hear how this actually works, as none of us ever really have. So I just, this mentality around, there's sides on this is what's been driving this for 4 years, and it's exhausting, all of us.
And that's why I'm saying send it to the council and just let them deal with that square footage thing and be done with it.
Right, that's just not the motion on the table.
Yeah, correct.
So,
Point of order.
yes.
Okay, where are we right now? We have a
So-
motion on the,
So we have a motion on the
motion for-
table. I asked for discussion. And Greg had his discussion.
and the
and we-
motion is,
And the motion is to have the town manager hire a consultant for us to speak with, to determine what in the industry would be an acceptable amount of space that they would need for walkways
Work
and
area.
kind of like that extra business space. That's what's on the table right now.
Is that for, we want to, the motion is for consultants specifically to look at home occupations or just a marijuana? Someone who
Square
knows a
foot-
lot about the,
Sorry, David, it's just the square footage.
right,
This is the only topic that we are asking for a consultant on.
Mhm.
So Hershey, your vote.
I vote for, sorry.
Okay, hang
I
on,
still haven't-
hang on, Hershey.
No, it's more discussion. Fine. That's fine.
I don't think it's been, my idea of consultant or something would be someone like David, and he wondered what kind of experience he has as far as what he's seen other towns do or whatever.
We need John, not David. David's our engineer.
Are you talking about the planner? Are you talking about our town planner? Because that's David, and John is the person that does not live in South Berwick that has the business. We're talking about David.
David's been our consultant here on writing up all our rates and stuff, right?
He is not, but the motion on the table is to have somebody within the industry of being a registered
And I'm
caregiver.
asking, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm asking, okay, would someone like Dave fill that bill? That's
No.
kind of what I had in
No.
mind,
He's not
okay?
processing it, he's not doing anything with
No.
the product.
But his experience of seeing what other towns have done or what other places. That's where my thinking was, but okay, that's
Okay.
not where you want to go, correct? I understand.
That's not the motion that's on the table. I apologize for the confusion. Are we ready to vote? No more discussion? Okay, so Greg,
I'm just gonna say, I think the best thing at this point is to send that specific item to the town council, so that's where my vote is.
okay, I'm sorry. Point of order, we have a
So,
motion on the table.
I
and
know how
just
point of
need to-
order, I know how point of orders work. I'm allowed to make a statement in my vote, and therefore, based on that statement, my vote is to no, to not hire a consultant.
Okay, Hershey,
Yes, I'd like to hear from a consultant and get some advice.
Canal Bailey,
No,
Ken Conley,
Yes.
Betsy Randall, yes. The vote is in favor of asking Tim for somebody from within the industry to come on as a consultant to help us understand what would be a reasonable square footage, cumulative square footage. Okay,
Well done, Betsy.
they're gonna kill me. I thought my kids were gonna kill me. Okay, so moving on to number six. Oh, wait, we're on six. Nope, we skipped six. So we could go
We're on
back to
page
three.
2.
So question 4, should the town adopt odor mitigation? We voted yes. What level of review? We voted yes. Question 6, should the town allow any limited or unlimited client sales from the premises / home? And we voted, we didn't vote. Yes, we did. Should the
Yeah.
town allow any limited or yeah, we said that we did
Yes.
vote, yes.
Yes.
We voted yes, and now we need to determine hours of operation.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the
client
list.
visits.
So hours of operation, vote yes, but we need to detail the hours of operation. I hear a motion. Does anybody want to discuss it? I mean, I will say that any regular business hours is fine by me. You could say, 8 to 6, you could say 7 to 5, you could say 7 to 7. I'm comfortable with anything within there. I don't want people coming and going at all hours of the night. That's my goal with this.
I agree with Betsy.
All right.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Do we have in our ordinance, David, sorry, anything that outlines what ordinary business, are they defined ordinary business hours anywhere? Do we have limitations on downtown or?
Joe, are you there? Let me see, I can possibly.
Yeah, I don't know if
It's- The hours of operation are usually done by the planning board. I mean, they put in what they feel is reasonable out. And obviously, whoever's gonna do any business, they will say, we're gonna do hours of operations of this. The planning board could say, that's a little harsh, you know, we're only gonna limit you to this.
Mhm.
But that's how it usually runs. The owner of the business is gonna say, we wanna operate X amount as, you know, A through Z. And the planning board has the option to say, no, it's gonna be this, 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 and this. But
But
there's
it's not
nothing
put into
in
the
the
planning board.
ordinance to state, it has to be certain hours.
I make a motion that for 8A, we make it Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 6. People can come before work, after work, assuming they have a regular 9 to 5 kind of shifty life. And weekend hours for people who work other shifts perhaps and can't make those hours could be, I'm not sure what, half a day even would be fine. Somebody throw out a time.
What is,
9 to 3.
Varied, but varied.
Thank
Oh,
you.
we
9 to
can-
3.
9 to 3? Okay, I'll second that motion. Any discussion?
So it was 9.
Nine.
Percy, you said
On the
9
weekend.
to
I
3.
said Monday through Friday, like 7:30 to 6. That gives you some time before and after work, if you work, you know, sort of a daytime shift. And for people who don't, the weekend then could be, you know, a broad number of hours. So David's was 9 to 3. I'm okay with 9 to 2. I'm okay with 9 to 12. I don't, whatever, something like that. Let's say 9 to 2.
Okay, well, we made the motion for.
9 to 3, 9 to 3, that's fine. Fine.
Okay, so vote,
You're so inflexible, Betsy, with these motions.
I'm sorry, I just tried to keep everything straight.
Okay,
So
all right.
that- Any discussion? Any more discussion? Hearing none.
Did we get a second?
Yeah, I seconded it. Yep. Greg Zinser?
Can you just give me a minute to
Sure, yeah.
process?
Hershey? Hershey?
Yeah, yes.
Al Bailey?
Yes.
Ken Conley?
Yes.
Betsy Randall? Yes. Greg Zinser?
Sure. There you go.
Sure, sure, an unqualified sure.
It's going in writing right now. I'm not, okay, 7:30, Monday through 6, 7.
All right, there you go.
Motion passes 5-0 that we do operating hours from, what was the time?
7:30 to 6.
On
and
Monday
9 to
through
3.
Friday,
And
9 to
9
3.
On the weekend, Saturday, Sunday.
No more blue laws like I grew up with.
Mark, we got that one done.
Okay, so we got 5 yeses on that, all yes.
Yeah.
No, we got 5 yeses, no, 4 yeses and 1 sure. I just.
Oh, that's a
Sorry.
technical term for it. I'll put it into my report. All right.
I just have to tell, yeah. I have to-
All right,
Okay.
you,
Sorry,
Wow.
David.
while we're thinking about that, do you want to hit number 7? As it is related, which is
No.
client visits?
That's number 2. That's actually next. Number 2, scheduled client appointments. We were in favor of it, but details to be defined in terms of client appointments.
Right, and I think that the numbers that the council used because of where we started moving things around. So we're looking at client visits. And there were three things I put down in there, which was all sales shall be transacted within the interior of the premises. Was A. B, client visits shall be appropriately scheduled to minimize client overlap. And then C is the
David,
big
you're
one.
looking, we're on the wrong page. We're on page 3.
Page 3.
That's the way we're going through this.
Okay, hold on. Okay,
I'm completely lost.
yeah,
Yeah, me
Option
too.
B, number 1 was hours of operation. Number 2 is scheduled client appointments.
Oh, I see where you are.
we're now on 3.
Right, and he's on page 5, he's giving us what he's coming up with.
correct.
We're not voting on just a nebulous thing. I want to, that's,
Right, so what I did is on that one, hold on, I was on Yeah, client visits, the real question of mine is on bottom of page 5 of 7. You want me to share screen?
No, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, so number 7 says client visits / product sales from the property. So this is under the ordinance section. There was 3s, A, B, C. And the bottom one, number C, says there shall be a maximum of X client visits per day per caregiver, or a cumulative maximum of XXX client visits to the property per day.
Yeah, I will say that I don't like either of those. I would rather there just be like no more than 5 clients at one given time. So that I don't care how many people come during the day, but I don't want there to be like tons of people there. Maybe like limited 2 clients at a time. If this isn't a residential neighborhood, I would just prefer there to be fewer cars there at any given time. That's my take on it.
Right.
Okay, and Betsy, does B not do that for you? That's not enough? You want a number?
I was trying to write something that didn't make it a store, so you'd have a constant coming and going of people, and it really comes down to vehicles. I don't care if 2 people go in because they're, or 3 people happen to go together because they're sharing a car or getting a ride together or something. I was really trying to think about how you can keep a residential neighborhood looking residential, and so again, you don't want to sort of have a store, a line out the door of folks waiting there. So I thought if you had scheduled appointments and then you sort of put a maximum, if you saw 20 people, let's just say, coming to, or 20 vehicles coming to a property to a house every day, is that more than a typical residential neighborhood or house would generate? So I kind of looked at it like that. Like if you spread it out between 7:30 and 6, if there's 15 clients that come within that time period, I don't care if, as long as they don't overlap kind of things, is that okay? And I don't think you're.
Yeah, I personally I don't want to limit the number of people that can go there every day. I mean, what if it's like their daughter's friend? Are you gonna count that person's, like, I don't know.
I think A and B sort of cover it, David. I'm with Betsy, I think a little bit about, it's just how to put a number on this. And I actually, aside from, once again, a Guncoat Road, I don't think we've seen a big problem about this. And, and don't get me wrong, if there were complaints and somebody said, we have a line of cars around our block, we could amend this, right? And I think that would be fair.
Right. The board could amend it, or again, you could, yeah, it's probably better to amend it if you want to take it out
Yeah,
later
so
on,
it's
rather than
not
putting it.
right. Right.
Is that a consensus of the board that you take out C, or is that just,
Me,
okay? No, I think you and Betsy were on the same.
right, we are, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were on the same page. I mean, if I were to make a motion, I would say to get rid of B, but to make B, to minimize, to, prevent, 5 clients at one given time. So you're just like limiting the number of people that come to the property at one given time. Because if you say 15 people, well, what if all 15 people come after work at 6 o'clock? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't.
I don't think people run their business that way anyhow. I mean,
Yeah.
Right. That's not good for
Yeah.
the people running the business, because that's sort of untenable. So I make a motion that we adopt A and B of that section. And strike C,
Strike C.
and strike C.
I'll second that. Discussion? Hearing none. I'll vote.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Go along with striking C, B. I think it's still, you may need to define something else there. Client visits shall be appropriately scheduled. Now, technically, now you're talking about scheduled visits, okay? Now what about unscheduled visits, okay? So those could stack up to your 6, 12 people or whatever like that, But, oh, yeah, I scheduled only 3 the whole day. They were an hour apart, So I think B deserves at least a little more discussion, maybe some more definition.
Would it, Burnett, is that Burnell who said that? Sorry, I got this in front of me, so I can't see, or, so would you be happy if we added something that said you could only have people come by appointment? I think the spirit of it is that obviously, spread people out, and I think sort of if somebody took advantage of the semantics to say that they're scheduled versus unscheduled, and we didn't contemplate that, that would be a little bit on the sleazy side, but hey, this is all about, getting it right. So if you think it should all be scheduled, we could always add,
We could go with that.
pick up by appointment, and that would maybe solve that problem, but I don't know. I have to think about that one too a little bit.
And visits by appointment.
Yeah, I could go with that.
I'm good with that.
I like that.
Visits by appointment only? Is that what I'm hearing?
Gotta
Yeah, I
be-
mean, I don't think anybody growing wants people just dropping in whenever they feel like it either. So I think they generally do schedule appointments, so I think that's okay to put in there.
So do I need to, I can rescind my second?
Well, you have a vote on the table right now.
And I
Is there,
seconded.
and you seconded, so is there a motion to amend?
I motion we amend by adding, I don't care how you letter them, A, B, C, a note saying that clients must have a scheduled appointment
Okay,
to pick up at the premises. How's that? However you want to put it.
Nice client.
Okay?
And then, and strike C?
And still strike C, the current C, yes.
okay,
But and retain, prevent, minimize line overlap.
Yeah, yes.
Mhm.
So all we do is we add to B that is by client appointment.
Mhm.
Clients must pick up by appointment. Any discussion? I'll take 1 second of it. Greg,
I have no discussion. I'm just
sure. Do
making
you want me to
sure.
come back to you?
No,
Okay.
I agree with what Purnell said. And then it was amended. It was seconded, so we have to vote on the amendment, which then we're gonna have to have 2 votes.
you had a second.
Yeah, so I will vote yes on the amendment.
Okay, Hershey,
Yes.
Burnell.
Yes.
Taylor, Ken Conley,
Yes.
Betsy Randall, yes. So it's 5 yeses to approve the amended motion of striking C and then adding to B. This is on page 5 of 7.
Yep.
Number 7, client visits. That client visits shall be by appointment only for pickup and scheduled to prevent / minimize client overlap. Okay. David, what do you feel like is the,
Hold on 1 second. I want to make sure I got this one. All right, okay. Whoops. Good. Okay, all right, so let's see, we got the hours of operation. So let's go to number 9, just on the same page. Would be real, so on page 6, item number 9. Okay. Which I talked about sufficient off-street parking. So what we have adopted so far is we have limited the hours of operation, and we have said that you're going to try not to have overlap. So my thought is, if you have that, do you need to have parking, or does that make the house look more like a business? So I thought I put in number 9, which was sufficient off-street parking shall be provided for 1 client parking space. If existing parking is sufficient, as determined by the CEO, no additional parking is required. In all cases, parking shall resemble parking at a typical residential home. And my thought was, I'm thinking, and Hershey said she knows a lot of people. I'm thinking most folks are just going to have their driveway. If I was selling at my house, for example, I'd have a driveway, so I have plenty of space for a client to park. Why require people to put in extra parking? I thought that, so you're already curtailing when people are gonna be overlapping. And if you have a driveway and a parking stall, if Joe happened to see a space and say, geez, you really don't have anywhere for a client to pull up, how about you put something here? And he would work with the client on a case-by-case basis.
I
Okay,
move we accept number 9 as written.
hang on, Burnell had his,
Oh.
had something to say, yeah.
Was our last vote on the amendment to Hersey's original motion?
It was on.
It was on the amendment. So we still have to vote on the motion.
But it was an amendment to the original motion, which still then,
We sent it the original motion.
I didn't hear, okay, I didn't hear her. I didn't hear Hersey rescind the original motion, but anyway, okay.
No, she made a motion to amend the motion to have the scheduled visits and those items in there, and then the board took a vote on the amendment, so it's the original motion and the amendment added to that, and that was voted on, I believe. Amy, am I?
Yes.
Yep, so I agree with you, David, on the parking thing. I mean, having a designated spot in a residential zone where we're saying there's gonna be client appointments, it just seems like an added thing that we don't need to have.
can I make my motion again?
Yes,
I
please.
move we accept number 9 as written.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Oh, no.
No,
Sorry,
no, what?
because, oh, yeah, okay, sorry, a second. Just had a moment, I had a moment, but a
Okay,
second. Discussion? Hearing none, take a vote. Greg Zinser,
Yes.
Hershey Hirschkopf,
aye.
Mel Bailey,
Yes,
Ken Conley,
Yes.
Betsy Randall, yes. So that passes to accept 9 as is.
Okay. And let's see, hold on 1 second. And
Vicar, going to make a motion.
wait, no, you're not. Hold on. I'm just wanting to make sure that I think we've actually gotten through everything except for the definition. I believe.
Oh, my goodness.
And
Woohoo!
so now, may I possibly make a recommendation about the definition?
Or-
I would recommend that perhaps now I have all of the specifics that the board has given me, I might fine tune some language of the definition. And unless there's something that people specifically want in there now after what we've discussed. And I'd bring that back. So what I would hope to do is in the next couple of days, I'd revise this with the changes. I think I actually have it pretty much done right now. And the only item that the board would need to finalize, I believe, at the next meeting would be the actual definition of that I would amend and come up with. And then you would amend it. And with that, if we had an agreement, the document, the ordinance would be ready for council review at that next meeting, is what I would think, unless we could go through the definition right now.
No, I think we should at least go through so you can get comments.
Good.
So that we just get that done.
Okay.
So the medical marijuana registered caregiver definition in here states that a registered medical marijuana caregiver means a home-based facility used by a maximum of 2 registered caregivers cultivating, processing, and or storing of medical marijuana at a registered caregiver's primary year-round residence. This definition also includes cultivating marijuana, harvesting marijuana, drying marijuana, and the packaging and transportation of the product from the premises or for limited client pickup. Only marijuana grown on the premises shall be allowed on the property at any time. No marijuana grown off the premises shall be transported to, stored at, packaged, or processed at the property. The maximum size of registered marijuana medical marijuana caregiver on a single lot of record shall be a maximum of blank, blank, blank square feet of cultivation area. That's where it is, David. You did tell me.
Well,
That's-
yeah, it was the hours of operation I had it, but there was reason for my madness to have it in there. So, all right, so we're going, and with that, I'm gonna put in X's, so we're uniform around that.
forgot it.
Hey, David, can I just ask,
Yeah.
if that's treated elsewhere in the ordinance, why repeat it there?
We don't.
We don't,
You-
haven't,
we-
haven't,
I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to if we're referencing, so if you go under home occupation, you'd have medical marijuana caregivers, home occupation. So as you've got that square footage of cultivation or area, or that's going to be determined by the council, you don't need it in the definition, technically.
right, okay, I understand, that's what I would think, okay, gotcha. Thanks.
So,
Yeah, it was sort of a reminder, so we had the same number in both places.
Right.
But again, if the state changes, I didn't want someone to come in and say, well, the state says I could have, 3,000 square feet of growing space, so now I'm doing that. It still has that kind of limitation. But we don't know what that number is.
I'm gonna go around the room for comments on the definition. And I'll start with Greg.
So Dave, the only thing I would suggest, I did send this out as a kind of a red line, is just add a reference, and I'll just read it for those that are here. Somewhere in that definition, I put it as what would be a second sentence. Registered medical marijuana caregivers must meet all permit and operational requirements for a minor or major, whatever that home occupation is, defined by the town of South Berwick, and additional license requirements for a medical marijuana registered caregiver. The definition is typically housed in a different part of the ordinance. So if you're reading the definitions, you're gonna go looking up your use, you're gonna see this is gonna be over in the definitions part. And it's not gonna be tied directly in line in the
Right.
home occupation or wherever we put it. So because the licensing is another piece that we've been asked to just kind of weigh in on at some point, I think we also just want to make sure that the definition is clear that registered medical marijuana caregivers have to meet all the permit and operational requirements of the licensing requirements that the council is also putting in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Well, Hershey, how do you feel about?
That's fine. No harm.
Meet Greg's comments, that's fine.
Yep, Ken?
Yeah, well, thanks. Clarity on that issue. Would say is instead of spelling out the processes do other than cultivating marijuana, I'd probably just say processing, then the whole other line, 2 lines. Just so, because there's many other things involved, that are just those 2 things. But that's just what, that doesn't really matter.
You may add kind of a hyphen down there then,
Processing.
from the premises or for limited client pickup, comma, or not comma, and all other allowed activities authorized by state law.
Something to that degree.
Yep,
Like that.
Okay, where's everyone see,
Yes.
on that, where were we at? I want to hear that again, because there was a comma added. Or something.
Well, okay, so Dave, I'm on page 6 of 7.
Yep.
the definition.
Yep.
And I made the statement about the licensing issue. Ken had a question about
Right.
the others. And so I said, where it says, this definition also includes cultivating marijuana, harvesting marijuana, drying marijuana, and the packaging and transportation of the product from the premises or for limited client pickup. And this is new. And all other allowed activities authorized under state law.
And all other,
Allowed
and all activities allowed under state law?
authorized under state law. Way it encompasses what they can do.
I-
Okay,
I have one other comment. And I know this is that kind of weird, somebody could misinterpret it, but where it says no marijuana grown off the premises shall be transported to, stored at, packaged, or processed at the property. I'm assuming that if somebody wants to go out and buy some other marijuana for their own personal use, that's not prohibited. So I wouldn't ever interpret it this way, but just to be clear, we should really put in except for personal use, right? Because you should be allowed to go buy somebody else's marijuana if you want to use it yourself at your house. That's perfectly legal, right?
Yeah, but I would find it very funny if somebody.
Well,
wanted-
it's semantics once again, but somebody could, who knows? Or you could say, maybe a better way to put it would be nothing, no marijuana grown off the premise should be transported to blah, 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 at the property for commercial use or to be resold or something like that.
Commercial resale? Ooh.
That's fine for commercial resale. How's that?
Do you have
I-
any comments?
Okay. Is
It's-
everyone okay of adding something of that nature in there?
Greg's the last one to comment. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna make a motion or anything. I just wanna see the final writing, right? I mean, right now, I'm generally okay with that. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. David, you can put that in.
Yep, hold on.
Any other comments for the definition? I'm actually very happy after Greg and Hershey's recommendations. For that one, hearing none, I'm gonna say that we're done on that topic.
Can I throw a small spanner in the works? Wrench in the works, excuse me. I still use other words. What was I gonna say? The only other thing that I thought the board may want to look at is if they're growing on site, they want to transfer off site. Should there be any kind of a limitation for size of truck coming into, or some language in there about, if they have a panel truck coming to that, or panel truck coming to their house once a month to send stuff off to be sold elsewhere or processed, packaged, whatever, is that a problem? Obviously, if it's a residential neighborhood, you don't want semis delivering every day or something like that.
These are very limited scope operations
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
so
I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, I thought I just want to make sure we've got it covered.
For now.
Were you moving on from this whole thing, paragraph, major home occupation? Is that what
ahead.
You were trying to do?
No,
Okay.
if you have one.
Just a comment here on B2. Actually, there's another A in there.
Use
That's
something like
bottom
that. I'll
page.
ship.
B4,
Oh, yeah.
okay, bottom page 4.
Okay, hold on. Okay, major home occupations.
A2.
Yep.
Third line. Could that say, unless, maybe there's some wording protocol that I'm not aware of or whatever, but it says there, if the CEO determines that the application exceeds the adopted standards, could we take out exceeds and say does not meet?
Yeah,
Maybe any other place I've seen exceeds means it's better than standards.
yeah, but that's probably fair. Does everyone have a feeling if that is?
That's fine. I
Okay,
think
so
that's
the
good.
terms the application does not meet, what was your exact words?
Not meet, yes, that's correct.
Good catch. Bruno.
Nice wordsmithing for now.
Okay, so, all that. All right.
And I think one more thing we need to discuss is whether the home occupation will be its own or if it will go under general home occupation. Any discussion? I mean, I will say that I believe that it's a unique enough situation that I would rather for Joe to have its own so that he can enforce it. That's my thought.
Can I ask David a question, David?
Mhm.
So right now, the way it's written from page 4 and onward is are those only the pieces that apply to the marijuana piece of home occupation, and there are other pieces?
So the way that I wrote this would be the first major home occupation. And I called it out as medical marijuana registered caregiver. And how I would see this sort of unfold is you would end up having, if you had medical marijuana, so it'd probably go 1, medical marijuana caregiver, and then you'd have all the standards. Then you would have where it has reserve. Say like another use comes up, the board goes, you know, we never even thought about that. Home doggy daycare, and we've got one that suddenly springs up and there's 60 dogs showing up to the neighborhood.
Okay,
The council may say to the board, hey, we've got this new doggy daycare use that's springing up, and you could add that as its own number
Okay,
and
but
any
does that-
specifics.
Okay, I'm still not clear. Does that mean that when you get to the home occupation section, there's going to be a section that's just generic and then a section for medical marijuana?
Correct.
Okay. I don't care.
That's how it's written right now. I mean, it's, you know, and we decided that it was going to go in home occupation, so I just put it as the first thing under major home occupation, and it's
I
like
got
you
you.
do with the performance standards for
Right.
something that requires planning board review.
I hear you. Okay, thank you.
Fine, that the way you've written it, David, that say a dentist doesn't have to have an odor mitigation system.
Exactly.
Okay. That's just what I wanted to make sure.
We could do that. You're looking at it right now. Dentist odor. No.
Did we, one thing I wanted to review quickly is signage. Did we come
Yes.
up with, an
No
agreement
signage. I think we decided on no signage.
with their signage? Okay. great.
Right, and that was taken from darn, I don't do I have it in front of me? Yes, I should have it in front of me. Hold on. Lighting, home occupations. Yeah, that is taken from the minor home occupations. There shall be no exterior signage, and no other on-site advertising from the exterior shall be displayed.
Okay.
Now,
Oh, Dave, you go ahead and finish.
oh, I was just going to say, are there some home occupations in residential zoning districts that might have a sign? I don't know. I mean, it's more, I guess, of a question for Joe, but as we already had the standard in there, I just copied it down. Is there a reason not to have signs? I'm willing to bet most of the folks who are doing this, who are legit, don't want a sign. They don't want to advertise. They don't want people to know where they're at, because it just increases their potential liability, I guess. So, but it's there for you guys to look at.
Dave, I just have a question. Again, major home occupation, so I'm looking at, on page 4, item B, major home occupation, 1, medical marijuana registered caregiver. I guess I don't understand the separation, to use Betsy's point. If a dentist comes in, or some other boat builder wants to come in and they're classified as a major home occupation, I don't see how those standards that we just talked about for medical marijuana are going to be applicable to them. And
Well, actually, you know what makes sense, and I probably should have done it before. I could have just reserved 1, and under 2 put registered caregiver, and then so you're just reserving item number 1 in case some other home occupation use is determined to be a major
Okay.
home occupation. You break it down that way. I mean, that can be done easy.
yeah, I agree.
Probably makes more sense too.
I would just ask Joe, who's going to be doing this, because we're not looking for planning board approval here. What's your preference in terms of the enforcement of this? What is going to be easier for you?
To have it separated,
Okay,
that's gonna be the easiest.
so what you're, then if I was to ask you, Joe, what's your preference? Is this is that, would this work for you, or would you say, no, I would rather 140-45, medical marijuana registered caregiver is its own category?
But I think if he's.
You know what? Hey, I'm just going to
What-
object to this one. Greg, we've been down this road. We decided to put it under home occupation. It's only a question of whether we put it under home occupation in a special way, not for it to be a whole special category, which I know you want that, but I don't really think that's where we're going.
Well, I want to make sure that it's clear from an enforcement perspective, you're wrong. So I've heard a couple of different things, so I'm fine as long as you do that, move the 1 and 2 around, that's fine.
Is it okay with the board if I move the positions of 1 and 2 under that? And that takes care of that issue.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too.
Consensus?
Okay. I do want to come back to that under major home occupations, though, David, number 1, full compliance with the standards listed for minor occupations.
Hold on 1 second. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm sorry. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm getting this as folks wanted it, so we don't have to go, whoop, carried here. Sorry. Okay, say again, Betsy, I'm sorry.
So if you look under the major home occupations B down, and then under A, where it says full compliance with the standards listed for minor occupations, that does not make sense. I don't think. Because we aren't holding them to the same standard as a minor. We're giving them a little more leeway. So I don't.
And there was sort of the no outside storage, there no on-premise retail sales, which we have amended. I could put something in there to say, unless amended below, all the standards apply, except as amended below, or something of that nature. I just want to make sure that
I would just be, I don't want there to be this, this in there and then someone say, oh, well, in minor home occupations, it's no more than 500 square feet or 25% of the gross floor area.
Right.
Or things like that.
That's why Dave said unless as amended. below.
except as amended below. Is that
Right,
okay?
yes.
Hold on.
That should go in there. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah, I find that a little confusing too, Betsy. Thanks for clearing that up.
David, do you feel like you have the information you need?
I do, if the board is comfortable. I think I could turn this around, what day is it today? Wednesday, isn't it? I should be able to turn something around. Tell you what, do you want me to, this is a question to you as the chair or as the board, if you want to put it out there. One of the things that I generally do when the ordinance is sort of ready for prime time, and I think we're right on the cusp, but I think we'll give it a last read, a final read next meeting if that's the desire of the board. And then I usually write a memorandum saying, here's what we looked at. Basically, I'm going to repeat back some of the information to the town council. Here's when you assigned this to the planning board. The planning board went through it, and I usually give an overview of that, highlighting the real areas that had some conflict. And obviously the square footage is the number one in there. But I would probably prepare that memorandum for the board also. I may not have that memorandum completely finished by tomorrow or Friday, but I can send it on obviously before we meet next. Give me till the end of Friday, and I can probably do the whole thing.
Yeah, so we would need it by Tuesday to send out to the board members.
That's right. See, I'm trying to keep ahead of it. You shouldn't have said anything. I'm trying to get you everything at least a week in advance. So it's sort of turnaround is on my head right now. So you're right. But
And the only thing is that we are supposed to consult with somebody regarding the square footage.
yeah, that is correct.
So, and that's going to be hopefully at the next meeting. Do you think Tim you can find someone next meeting? Or perhaps by, we could collect questions, send them and have them returned to us. That might be the easiest way to do it. So I guess for for now, I'll talk to Tim about what the easiest way is to do it. And I will email everybody, and any questions that you have, I can collect. We can send it and then get responses. And hopefully, David, I can do that really quickly so that we can do the final read at our
Right.
next meeting.
And I'd forgotten about that nuance. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. Because it would be really, really nice to vote and be done with this at our next meeting.
Yeah, it'd be nice to put in some numbers in that final slot and just say, but still point out to the board, to the town council that these were sort of the sticking points for the board.
Okay, thank you, David. It's 8:55 PM. I'm going to suggest that we table the rest of our agenda items till our next meeting. Any motion?
Can I ask one question? It'd be great to think a little ahead. Next up is our solar stuff. And actually, I'm not really sure how we're going to decide this or how it's going to work. And we've put out a few suggestions, and I'm not sure if anybody has any more thoughts, but it'd be great if we could think ahead to, do we want anybody to come in and talk to us also at the next meeting about this? So just trying to not get past, waste another meeting with nothing to do if we're looking for input from people. And I don't know what that looks like. So.
Right.
Does everyone still have a copy of the initial memorandum that I sent out and the ordinance that I sent out for the solar?
Right, but David, and don't take this the wrong way, I know it was a lot of work, but for me, it's about like the bigger picture of where we put these. And we can't really.
I agree with you. No,
And
I was just making sure everyone had the ordinance and, already, and then.
Right,
Yeah.
and I just don't know how we're gonna go about that. And so it'd be great to get some professional guidance on that, wherever we seek it, whether we say each of us should go out and try to think about it, or look at other towns, or ask people who are I don't know. I need some help on that one. So I'd love to think ahead if we can about what that's gonna look like when we start working on it.
There was one thing that came up on that issue before, and that was that I believe Greg had said when we discussed this, could I pull some numbers together about kind of acreage that these things have been using? And I don't think I pulled that together for you. Would you like me to do that before we meet and see what I can dig up on that?
That would be great. And I'm happy if we need some little subcommittee to put together stuff to present, doing a little research also, but just let me know if, where we need help or what we need for information. I'd love to get out ahead of this a little, that's all.
Really great. Amy, did you have a thought?
I just wanted to make sure you remember to look just at the chart itself in that information, and then go from there. If the town council was looking for someone to speak with, they would have asked us to look for someone to speak with. I know where you're coming from, Hershey, and that you're confused about where to move and how to, we don't want to end up being where we're at with marijuana with solar.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's going to be that contentious actually, but I just think that I don't think anybody, including the town council, has their head around how to figure this out. And I think all I'm hearing from people who work in the environmental sort of climate change world, that they're all having the same issues around how to think through these things. So, and trying to come up with models and not just, yeah.
And I do think the town council, trusts that we'll make responsible decisions in terms of how we're gonna go about making these recommendations. So I'm fine with asking somebody, but let me talk to Tim.
Okay.
And figure out maybe where the best place is to get that information. And then I can have Amy distribute it. But please, if everybody could review David's memorandum for the solar, that would be great. And I think that there were some points in there that he had made that are worth maybe digging into individually and coming with some.
There may be some information on the MMA also, so I could check that. And Maine Municipal Association, of which the town is a member.
Right, that's a great idea.
Amy?
At the next meeting, we do have some new material for Amy's Lane to go through, and I put the packet on everybody's area here. And Hershey, I'll just drop yours off in your mailbox.
Thanks, Aim. Oh, you beer.
We'll be here in person to do this at our next meeting.
I
Just
just
so
have-
you let you know.
Okay, thanks for the heads up. That might be a game changer, but thanks. That's good. Good to know.
I have a process question similar to what Amy had said about the charge. And again, if the board has voted to seek expert help, whatever that looks like, we don't know in the square footage. We meet again on the 16th. I'm not seeing any decision come up on the 16th. I'm seeing this get delayed on this marijuana ordinance, probably until at this point, the month of April, frankly. By the time everything is said and done, we get someone on board to look at this. The town council didn't ask us to do that if they wanted to. They said set aside one. So just from a process perspective, if we're looking to move this forward to the town council, and we're already talking about that at the next meeting, everything Dave is talking about with the memo, and I've seen those memos, here's what we did, here's the ordinance. We're not gonna be sending that to them at least until April, after we get all this information back. That's just from a straight process perspective. And so we can engage an architect, they can do their block diagram, here's 500 square feet. Here's a 2-foot walkway, here's another block of 500 square feet, here's what a typical kitchen is. Here's what a typical processing area would be. Architects are smart, they understand this stuff happens everywhere. Very competent architect right over here. I don't know, just again, from a process perspective, we're not gonna be voting to send anything forward at this point until the month of April. So I'm just gonna kind of go back and say, we did great on all the other stuff, send that XXX off to them and let the council make that decision. We're done with it. Next week, we're done.
We've already voted on that.
Yeah,
And
just
that's
saying,
not
just saying from a
But-
process perspective, thinking out, you know, you can always change the mind, so this. we
I
can-
would have loved that, but this
Yeah.
is the problem, is that nobody was willing to budge enough to make it so that we could vote and agree on something. I would have been very happy to agree on something that we could have sent off to town council. But the opposing sides in this board on this issue are so far apart. And everyone's only willing to budge like so small that it doesn't even make sense to have another vote. So you're right, it does. It totally sucks that we have to wait now until April to send this to town council. But but it just is what it is. I'm not going to force somebody to vote to agree to something that they can't, that they don't believe in.
Yeah, no,
That's all.
you're missing the point. My point is, we could just be done with it next week, go back and revisit the motion to get a consultant and just say, leave it blank, send it off and say we couldn't figure it out, let the council figure it out. If they want to engage an architect or whatever at that point, let them do it. And they can. have that.
You know, and I'll just say, I'd love to get some advice from somebody who actually does this for a living and find out how much space they have. And if they tell me they can do this with 1,200 square feet, I'll vote for 1,200 square feet. How's that for a compromise? Okay, not my first choice. But if we hear from somebody and they say 1,500 square feet or 2,000, I just like to get some advice about it because none of us really know anything about this or how much space they actually need. We're all making this stuff up as we go along. So let's get some real advice and then we can put out a number and I'll agree to it if that's what they tell us. Yeah?
The only way we're going back on it now is if whoever made the motion or seconded the motion, I believe, asks for an amendment.
Yep.
And
I just want to be clear, the point I was raising is we're talking about getting all happy, sending it off. But we're not going to be sending it off at the next meeting. We're probably talking sometime in April. I'm fine with them, just saying.
okay,
Yeah,
well, I'm
yeah.
fine with it
Yeah,
too. That's
okay.
just where we're at.
Okay, that's fine.
So, so if any other member comments? If not, motion to adjourn? Anyone?
A motion we adjourn.
Yeah, I second that. Take a vote. Greg Zimshin.
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
And Betsy, aye. We are adjourned. 9:06.
Good job, Bets. Thanks, David. Thanks,
guys.
Amy.
Take care.
I'll have digital sent to you guys tomorrow.
Oh, Amy, are you,
Hold on,
is Tim
hold
on
on.
vacation still?